this is the only industry that I feel that has the components of, game theory, economics, math, tech, and, all of these things combined really make it really fun. If you only, focus on one particular area, like you're not going to be able to survive in crypto as a leader. You really need to continuously like read and bounce a lot with people.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to The Blueprint, the show where we interview the innovators behind some of Web3's most exciting projects and learn about who they are, where they're from, and where they're going. The Blueprint is designed to be accessible to crypto natives and noobs alike. So if you're new on your crypto journey, we'd be honored if you start exploring with us. The Blueprint is a collaboration between XD Academy and the Spartan Group. I'm Lawrence, an entrepreneur and educator with a passion for making complex ideas simple. Today, we'll be talking to Tascha, founder of Stella.xyz. If you're interested in crypto financial markets, you'll really love this conversation. This was recorded on November 20th, 2023. Let's go. Tascha, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So excited to learn more about you and excited to learn more about Stella.xyz. Tascha, for those that may not know you, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Tascha, founder and project lead of Stella.xyz, and been in crypto space for about almost 4 years now. For as a builder, right? Grew up in Thailand, so pretty centralized country, I would say, and gone through quite a journey for figuring out blockchain and the whole decentralization, which I found very interesting. Started buying the first Bitcoin in 2016 and then kind of stuck around in the industry ever since. But yeah, really much started building what we're building today since 2020.
Awesome. And what was it that made you think, that you wanted to build in the space?
Yeah, I think this space is really unique. And it's also hard to explain how unique it is for those who are still outside of the space, but to make it really short and as easy as possible to understand, is really much like this is the only industry that I feel that has the components of game theory, economics, math, tech, and all of these things combined really make it really fun to build and to just follow what this industry entails, right? And I think because of how interesting it is, the people that it draws are also really smart, and also really down to earth. These are all smart, capable people who are very open-minded, down to share thoughts, bounce ideas. So I feel like it's the whole environment of this industry that makes it very prone to innovation. And not only just tech innovation, but also hey, how are you thinking of engaging with your community? There's also the game theory on the tokenomics. So I feel like it has a bunch of interesting things that really entice a lot of people.
And do you feel like that complexity was part of what drew you in?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like because of that complexity, plus every day is very different, and the problem that you tackle is very different for each aspect, and it really allows you to and pushes you to kind of grow a lot as a person as well. Because if you only focus on one particular area, you're not going to be able to survive in crypto as a leader. Couple that with the fact that everything in crypto, in blockchain space, moves so fast that it already pushes you to make sure that you always learn and become a lifelong learner by default. I really enjoy that process of being a lifelong learner. And then over time, you're going to meet a lot of friends in the space that are also lifelong learner, which I find those, relationships a lot more meaningful.
Well, that's certainly right up my alley. Why don't you tell me about some of the learning experiences that you feel were most helpful in getting you to where you are now?
Because this industry is so fast, whatever whatever you learn, last year may not be the same anymore, right? Which means that, the approach you did, even a few months back or, last year, may not be the approach you should do now, for what you're about to do, right? And I think that comes from multiple things. Comes from first, not only just the landscape is so fast, but also the appetite for risk, for yields also change with macroeconomics. So there are a lot of, inputs and a lot of variables that kind of play into it. And all of that really means that, like it really puts you to be super humble that, whatever whatever you've achieved doesn't mean that you can continue achieving that. And I think that comes back to my huge learning that you really need to continuously like read and bounce a lot with people. So I would say like a lot of people and myself as well, back in the days is that you focus a lot on doing things, right? You have all these, great plans, all these, things that you want to do, and then you coordinate with your team to execute it. What I focus a lot more now is really much having the time that you really observe, where things are going around you in the industry, read a lot, bounce a lot of with people. So right now I would say I work like 7 days a week, but a lot of the times I don't feel like I'm working because I'm, like reading, chatting with people. Hey, what do you think of this? And really internalizing what those changes mean and how you think of those changes, because there are a lot of noises in the space as well. So you really need to kind of take a lot of those in, internalize it, and form your own opinion based on a lot of those inputs.
That makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like I'm hearing you say a lot about bouncing ideas off of other people and talking to other people in the space. So it sounds like community is a big source of learning for you. Would you say that that's fair?
Yeah, and I think another point that goes with that is you need to screen and filter the right people you surround yourself with, because otherwise the information you bounce with will be pretty distorted, and it may not be the right crowd that you should bounce with, right? So I think the key thing is that you need to educate yourself and equip yourself a lot, such that you are able to determine who are actually in for the long run, who's actually like really understand the space, and really like keep those in your key network and making sure that you bounce with them. Because I feel like a lot of people, they're really smart, they know the industry, but a lot of times they also follow the noise in the industry as well, because it's very noisy, right? Like it's very loud, like those noises is very loud. So I think you cannot just rely only on external opinions, but the key thing is you have to educate and equip yourself so much that you're able to determine who in your network is actually following those noises and who is not, and make sure you bounce with the right people.
Absolutely. Maybe you've had the experience that I have, which is I'm also fortunate to have a network of really smart people to be able to bounce ideas off of, and when they're all in agreement, it's easy. I just assume, okay, they must be right. They're all saying, this. But sometimes I'll have two people who are equally bright and accomplished and that I respect equally, and that they'll give me opposite messages about something. And then I'll go, oh God, what do I do in that circumstance? So it sounds like a lot of informal learning, which is very common for those in the space, because there's just not that much formal education, in crypto yet. But you have had some interesting formal education experiences as well. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So studied economics at UC Berkeley, and after graduation, then I went into traditional finance, so in tech investment banking for a few years before pivoted to become product manager at Tencent for a few years before joining crypto full time. So I think through all of that, I would say the only key thing that I would take from all of those are, well, two main things, right? One is that the stamina to really like go through, all the obstacles, all the challenges you have to go through. And then I think that goes a long way, because in crypto, especially if you're building in this space, there are like challenges like all around and, at the same time. So you need to make sure that you have that stamina, and you have to have that peace in your mind that allows you to power through those obstacles. Because in the end, there's no right answer, and the space moves really fast. So if you miss, one thing, it can lead to missing multiple things along the way as well. And yeah, attention in the space is quite short. So if you miss a number of times, then I feel like you might, quite be quite hard to kind of recover it back. The other thing pretty much is that, especially at UC Berkeley, like it's very open-minded culture to begin with, and everyone's very humble, very smart. So I feel like that really resonates a lot with the culture in in the blockchain, in the crypto space. And, fortunately, a lot of crypto people now are actually from Berkeley. So great to have, a great network from the same school.
Yeah, very cool. Now I'm curious, I think you have another education experience that you haven't mentioned.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I actually got into Harvard Business School the year that COVID, became a global pandemic. And I decided to defer the MBA program. And then that's actually the same year that I really, focused full time on building Stella.xyz. Back then it was called Alpha Finance before we rebranded it. And yeah, in the end, I decided not to join the MBA program and decided to, become a lifelong entrepreneur instead.
Good for you. I think maybe that held particular interest for me because before I got into crypto, I ran an MBA admissions consulting business here in Southeast Asia for quite a while. And of course, Harvard is the school that, people are just dying to go to. And, you see on like online forums and stuff, people, would say like, would anybody ever not go to Harvard if given the opportunity? And yeah, if you're absolutely passionate about something and you feel confident and you have a lot of conviction in your direction, then maybe you don't need to go to Harvard Business School. And ironically, those are often the qualities that'll help you get admitted in the first place. So a bit of a paradox there. But okay, so it sounds like we've caught up to where you're starting the project that you're currently working on. It started under a different name, but tell us about Stella.xyz.
Yeah, so at Stella.xyz, we believe that with any, financial system, leverage is, bread and butter in the system, right? But with on-chain DeFi, there is yet to be, a leverage system that actually works throughout different cycles and actually works in a scalable way. So, backtracked to when we were Alpha Finance, we actually came up with the concept of leveraged yield farming. The first protocol to launch it, we coined the name. And then throughout the cycles, we realized that, hey, like this model really works mainly in the bull market in the condition that, hey, there are a lot of token emissions, there are high yields, but those things are not, going to be there forever, right? And now we're, I would say, in the bear market, and still like there has to be a mechanics that make leverage sustainable in, any financial system. And in the end, we pivoted to launch Stella.xyz, another product that really changed the concept of fundamentally like how leverage is done on chain. So right now, the mechanics align the incentives on among all the players, including the leveragers, including the protocol itself, the lenders. So now the incentives are aligned such that we make sure that we don't actually need to rely on the yield emissions in order to establish this leverage mechanics. So I think going forward, there are pretty packed roadmap to make sure that we scale this to become a lot more scalable and make sure that there are different yield opportunities that can be leveraged on Stella itself. Ultimately, I think in the end, once the markets and attention on-chain DeFi is back a lot more, let's say hopefully next year, we expect a lot of usages on leverage sector back again.
Can you give me some specific examples?
Yeah, so right now people can take leverage liquidity providing positions. People can take leverage yield trading positions. So assuming that in DeFi, right, like there are multiple ways that you can earn more yields, whether it's providing liquidity, whether it's trading on perp exchange or trading the yields. So Stella.xyz enables you to leverage on all those positions. So let's say if you only have $100 and you want to provide liquidity to Uniswap V3, for example, if you only have $100 and you do that, you might get, let's say, 10% APY. But if you were to use Stella.xyz, you would actually be able to lever up to roughly 5x. So it is as if you have, $500, and instead of like 30% APY, you would get like 150% APY. So all of those things are already capable and able. You can already do that on Stella.xyz. And in the roadmap, we are extending a lot beyond leverage LP and yield trading to more DeFi strategies.
Maybe in the simplest possible terms, can you help me understand the mechanism by which you're able to offer this leverage?
So two key things, right? First thing is that on the user's end, even though it's under collateralized because you're only providing $100 while you're getting the yields as if you're providing 500, right? On the smart contract level, it's actually over collateralized. So after you provide liquidity, right, you will get the receipt of your position. So the receipt of your position is actually worth $500 because you provide, in total 500, right? So that receipt is actually the collateral on our contract, which means that on the contract level, everything is actually over collateralized, allowing, liquidations to happen if there are, price movement that are super significant. So all of those things are to ensure that it's safe, right, on the contract level. And then the other key mechanics is that we remove the whole, concept of interest rate model, which means that you as a leverager, you can actually borrow, 400 to provide liquidity into that 500 position without having to pay the borrowing costs. What we replaced it with instead is with profit sharing, which means that, hey, by the end of your position, if you're profitable, then the protocol would take, yield cut, right? And then those yield cuts are being distributed to lenders as lending APY. So here you see that, hey, the incentives are super aligned among leveragers, among the protocol, because protocol fees also are cut from the yield shares as well, and then the lender. So the key three stakeholders have the same aligned incentives.
So who are the three key stakeholders?
Yeah. So first is the leveragers. Second is the protocol itself, and hence, protocol would get protocol fees from the yields shared. And third is the lender, which the lending APY actually is from the yields that are shared from the leveragers.
And is the lender Stella or another party?
Anyone can be a lender. Yep. And anyone can also be a leverager as well. So it's open, permissionless. Anyone who has, crypto wallet would be able to participate.
So you're sort of connecting people who want access to leverage for people who are helping them provide collateral to gain that leverage. Is that correct?
Yep, correct.
Got it. Okay. And I guess in terms of the roles that people are taking, the leverager says, hey, I'm really smart. I have figured out like a high alpha position. And the lender is saying, I have capital, but I think that maybe there's someone else who might be able to put this to better use than me. So I'd rather just provide my capital. Am I kind of on the right track here?
Yep, right track. Except the key thing is also that the leveragers don't have to do this themselves. So everything's automated on the smart contract. They just need to make sure they understand what it's doing such that they would be able to manage their positions correctly.
How do I decide? Because it's my capital that's at risk, right? If the position overall goes bad, it's the lender that has the most to lose in a sense. Is that true?
Yes, but because everything is over collateralized, then it comes down to how the protocol determines the collateral factor, the borrow factor, liquidations. So all those things are already done on the protocol. So lenders don't have to worry about, hey, whether it's not peer-to-peer lending, it's not peer-to-peer borrowing. So everyone deposits to a single pool for that particular asset. The protocol itself already determined what are the collateral factor, how would the liquidations work, where would liquidations should be triggered for each particular asset token, because each token have different volatility as well. And then on the leverager side, they would only be able to borrow up to certain limits that the protocol sets. Yeah, and this is the liquidation and the collateral factor model. These are the models that we use since 2020. So been quite, battle tested, and there's no, bad debt from not being able to liquidate in time.
Okay, that's good, especially in highly volatile markets. I haven't really worked in high finance before. I studied it a little bit, so I always struggle with some of these types of conversations. But I guess what I'm trying to understand is the for the protocol is obvious, right? Because I'm getting more people staking with me. The benefit for the leverager is obvious because I'm getting access to, a higher return profile than what my collateral can afford. What is the benefit to the lender?
Yeah. So because lenders APY is actually the yields shared from the yields generated by leveragers, which means that there's actually no maximum cap to how much lenders can earn. So typically, let's say in traditional finance, it's pretty fixed percentage how much the lending APY would be, right? Let's say you go to a bank right now, it's like 4%, 5% for USD, right? And comparing that to on-chain lending, typically other places that lenders can lend would also have a fixed lending APY because they follow interest rate model, right? So whatever is paid by the borrowers, that's the maximum that you can earn as a lender. For this case, it's actually not true. So it means that as a lender, whatever possible yields that leveragers can get from in the DeFi market is actually like the potential yields that you can get because the lending APY is the yields shared by the leveragers, right? So as a result, all of that means that right now in, pretty much, the bear market that we're in, as an ETH lenders, you're earning at this moment in time, it's 13.88%. And mainly because the leveragers are putting a good use to the capital, earning, the yields from different strategies on the leverage side. And then the yields that they generated are shared to the lenders.
Mm-hmm. But if the lenders just invested on their own, wouldn't they have a higher yield?
Invest on their own as in if they lend capital to other places in DeFi, right?
If they work directly with the protocol without involving the leverager.
They don't deal directly with leveragers at this moment. So everything is they lend to the protocol and leveragers actually borrow from the protocol.
Okay. So when you say the protocol, you're talking about the Stella.xyz protocol.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. So is there a selection process by which like leveragers are saying, for example, like I want to stake in a particular project, or the protocol is all like Stella.xyz?
Yeah. So on Stella.xyz, we present multiple ways or multiple on-chain DeFi strategies that leveragers can take leverage positions on. So as a protocol, like we already curate those strategies for the leveragers because we want to make sure that we reduce the work on leveragers front as much as possible and we automate everything for them, right? So it's as easy as, you go to the D app itself, you see the possible strategies that you can leverage on, and then you can enter into those leverage positions. There are risks, so which means that as a leverager, you need to understand more than a lender. A lender, you only need to have those assets and lend on the protocol, and protocol would handle everything else.
Got it. Okay. How do you curate like the opportunities that you present? What does that selection process look like?
You have to understand like where yields are, what are the interesting strategies, interesting protocols to leverage on top. And those, comes back to my earlier point in which like you have to really be aware of where things are happening, what people are, excited about. How can you take those things and apply to what you're doing and catch the right opportunity? So for example, right now, people can leverage into different Uniswap V3 positions. People can leverage on Pendle, PenPy. So these are all the strategies that we see that, hey, there's potentially high demand and we spot it before we launched. And then once we launched, it's pretty clear that there is high demand on leveraging into these positions. So all in all, it requires the whole team to do this because you also need to make sure that, hey, the risk parameters are good. It's the strategies that you can support. It would make sense for both lenders and leveragers. And then you can build the tech out. Yeah.
Is there any thought to going kind of like more open source on that sort of curation process as well and having like turning that into a DAO maybe, or
Definitely, we are looking to more of like a governance proposals of, hey, like what are the different interesting, strategies that Stella.xyz should support on the leverage side. But ultimately on the risk parameters and on building the tech itself, I think it's a lot more efficient and safer to still be the core contributors. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And tell me about traction. How many users do you guys have? And what's obviously, we know, crypto is, as you said, we're in a bear market at the moment, but love to hear about how you guys are doing.
Yeah. So we launched this product in June. So about like 4 or 5 months ago. And now we have about 6 million in total value lock. This is launched on Arbitrum. We are one of the 2 protocols in the yields category that actually get the Arbitrum incentives as well. So Arbitrum incentives started beginning of November, and among the 150 protocols that submitted the proposals, only 30 are approved, right? And there are multiple requirements for that. So we're one of the protocols in this category that also got approved. So right now, if you are looking to collect ARB tokens, farm ARB tokens, you could also be lending on Stella.xyz or using the leverage positions on Stella.xyz to do so. Right now, as of now, average APY on the positions, so about 70% of the positions are profitable at this moment, right? And the average APY on the positions are 146%.
Wow. Okay. So people are earning like quite high above like treasuries on these positions.
Yeah, also comes with, because this is, a whole new thing and requires a lot of learning curve. So I think there's the gap for those who understand.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, really my mission with XD Academy is to try to open up these types of opportunities for more people to be able to understand them. I think the person that I tend to think about as like my archetypal customer is my dad. So my dad is a mathematician, very bright guy, but never went into business, spent his career teaching. And he doesn't know anything about finance or business, really. He might not like that I just said that, but he certainly concepts like leverage and collateral and stuff aren't intuitive to him. My feeling is that there's a lot of people that are really bright out there that deserve the opportunity to access tools like what you're offering. The crypto thesis is really about offering some of these kind of tools to more people. So I want to be able to try and break down that kind of intellectual barrier. But I feel like I have a lot because I barely understand this stuff. So I've got my work cut out
Then that
for
means
me.
that I am a bad communicator.
No. I think some of this stuff is it's just hard. But yeah, I'm gonna look into this more because I'm really interested. And look, anytime your people can get those kinds of yields, I mean that's exciting, right? But let's be honest with folks. There is risks involved as well. What are the types of risks that somebody might be facing?
Yeah, I think first of all, smart contract risk, and that goes with any smart contract you're interacting with on, in the space, right? Because all of these are codes. So in the end, you're interacting with the codes, and codes are automated. There are, audits, and there are like multiple security checks, but still it's a code, right? So that's, the first thing. Second thing is as well on the leverager side, I think it's more on making sure that your position doesn't get liquidated. Even if it gets liquidated, you will get, some part of the principal back, but depending on how much of that underwater position is, then it might eat up a bit into your principal as well. So yeah, I think those two are the 2 key things.
So the first one is the technical risk of the smart contract having a bug in it. Is that fair?
Yeah, correct.
Which is the potential, if we can say maybe the potential catastrophic risk, where if the smart contract just has a bug, you could really be in trouble. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yeah, and that goes for any on-chain decentralized finance applications too.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you see this going for Stella? Like, do you see there being like a broader use case where maybe like, a lot of people would be using a product like what you're offering?
Yeah, I think with the current landscape still targeting those who are using DeFi, I think it's not as ready to target, let's say, linking off-chain and on-chain leverage yet, or even on-chain
Mm,
and off-chain usages yet. Because in the end, when it comes to the real world and you actually like allow people to borrow capital from on-chain and use in off-chain, then there are a lot of complexities involved. For example, if those people don't return, then how would you call back on those funds? So right now we focus mainly on the on-chain opportunities. The benefit of that is that because every product in DeFi on the blockchains are codes, which means that it's very easy to integrate. And we can ensure that, hey, like whatever collateral we work with, whatever codes we work with are something that we fully understand.
mm, that's really good. And then tell me about just you personally. Where are you at, in this journey? You mentioned many times that you're constantly learning. I don't think you would have been able to start this company if it wasn't for that experience in finance that you mentioned, post Berkeley. And you have a background that sounds almost like really custom made for what you're doing, but you're still learning. Is there anything going on that excites you at this point in terms of what you're learning, and how do you see yourself developing as a CEO and as a professional in this space?
Yeah, and I would say, the things that I studied and the things that I worked on before, joining crypto full time are not as relevant to what I'm learning every day now, right? And I think the crash course that I gave myself early in 2019, 2020, when before, moving into full time in crypto was, the key input that really make the difference, right? So don't think that, hey, you don't have background in finance. Don't think that if you don't have education in economics, then you would have disadvantage in starting in crypto. I don't think that's the case. And I think the good thing in crypto is that because everything is online and there's no exact way of doing it, some people can view it as frustration, but some people can actually view it as, hey, like they can actually get up to speed very quickly because there's no set, schools or no set routes of career you have to take in order for you to like enter, right? So as long as you're like really hungry, as long as you're really into the ethos and what this industry can give you and can give, other generations, then I think it's really worth digging into it. And I think the key thing that really makes learning a lot faster is making sure you subscribe and read the key opinion leaders and the key news every day, right? Because things move really, really fast. And if you, let's say, take a pause from or take a break from this industry for a month, it will actually take you like multiple months to actually catch up. And then with that gap itself, it would not be as intuitive to you why people do things in the certain way, why this, tactic works, right? So in the end, I think it's really about building that intuition within you. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's particularly true for practitioners. I don't think it's practical to expect, more casual users or casual investors even to read every day. I just want to bring that up because I think about this sometimes. I think so for people like you, I certainly read every day. And I think for people like you and I, we kind of have to read every day. But I think if you tell somebody, and a big concern for me is how do we bring more people into the space? And people come to me and say, hey, I want to learn about crypto. What's a good place to start? If you tell that person, well, you're going to have to start reading every day. And if you miss a couple
That is
weeks,
true.
yeah,
Yep.
like for so many people, they're already out. They're like, I'm gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Like no
Yeah. And
thanks.
I think
That's too
what
much.
this means is more for if you want to build in the space, right? If you
Yes.
want to invest, if you want to learn about it, I don't think you need to. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to name drop some of your favorite sources?
I don't want to name particular persons, because in case they're not, open to be name
Sure.
dropped.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
But
most people don't mind, but you never know. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I follow, this actually is a good Telegram news channel called DeFi Llama Roundup. So it actually summarizes all the important things happening in the space with different links to different tweets, different news. So I think that's a great place to start for people who are somewhat intermediate understanding in the space. But I would say if you're more on the entry level or the beginner level, I think news source, for example, like The Block is also a good place to start. Yeah. And I think a bunch of podcasts is great too. So if you listen to The Block Crunch by Jason Choi, I think that's a great deep dive on multiple topics. And for sure, this podcast as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, well, now that we have you on, of course, we can say that. Tascha, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Is there anything that we can leave our viewers, listeners with? Like, where should they go to check out Stella.xyz?
Yeah, so you can go to Stella.xyz.io, or you can also check out our Twitter, which is Stellaxyz_, and also my Twitter, which is Tascha, my first name, _PANPAN.
Sounds great. Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us, Tascha.
Thank you, Lawrence.
That's all for today, folks. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe to The Blueprint on whatever channel you access this from. And even better, give us a like or a comment as well. If you're interested in going deeper on your crypto learning journey, check out XD Academy's collection of crypto masterclasses on xd.academy. We have an incredible course on the economics of Bitcoin live now by none other than Saifedean Ammous, author of the Bitcoin Standard, and all course registrants and completers are eligible for token rewards. We also have a growing community on the XD Academy Discord, which we'd love you to join as well if you like having positive conversations about crypto in a supportive and safe environment. Great seeing you guys. Until next time.